What you are about to hear is not just another speech, it is a story of truth, power, and silence. Imagine the world's most powerful stage, the United Nations, where leaders speak not only for themselves, but for millions of unheard voices. Now imagine at the very height of a fiery truth being spoken, the microphone goes dead. Was it just a glitch, or was it something far greater? A deliberate attempt to silence the voice of justice. Today, I will take you inside that moment. A moment that shocked the world, a moment that scientists, leaders, and even history itself cannot ignore. Stay with me until the end, because what was silenced in that hall may be the very truth that awakens us all. Suggests that what happened at the United Nations when a microphone was cut off during a heated moment against Israel should not be looked at as a mere technical glitch, but rather as a symbolic and alarming signal that voices of dissent and truth are being muted deliberately. The world stage is meant to be the one place where every leader, regardless of power, size of their nation, or their geopolitical influence, should be allowed to express their stance fully without interruption. The moment a mic is cut, especially in the middle of a controversial issue such as Israel and Palestine, the entire episode takes on a much deeper meaning. It becomes not just about one leader's speech being interrupted, but about the larger struggle of narrative control, censorship, and the manipulation of what the global audience is allowed to hear. When a microphone goes silent at such a crucial juncture, the silence itself speaks louder than any words could. The perception of silencing at the UN is important because it is the only international platform where smaller nations can confront larger powers in front of the world. When leaders from countries like South Africa or others who dare to question Israeli policies take the stage, they often do so with the backing of not only their citizens, but also millions of people globally who feel voiceless in this conflict. Therefore, muting a speech or interrupting it at its peak appears like an attempt to rob those millions of their representation. The issue of Palestine has long been controversial, tied up in religion, politics, and human rights. And whenever a world leader raises their voice passionately, it adds weight to the cause of those suffering. A sudden technical cut undermines that expression, whether intentional or coincidental, and creates suspicion that powerful hands behind the scenes do not want certain words to reach the ears of the global audience. This is where the symbolic interpretation becomes even more significant. In the modern era, where everything is broadcast live and scrutinized second by second, the act of muting carries immense weight. It sends a psychological message. Your truth is dangerous, your narrative is unacceptable, and your voice must not reach too far. It also creates a paradox, because instead of silencing the message, the act of cutting the mic amplifies it. People start wondering why it happened, what was being said at that moment, and what truths were about to be exposed. Suspense and speculation grow, and the message gains more force in the shadows than it might have had in the light. The phrase, "scientists shock but don't mention him," ties into this narrative as well. There are often parallels drawn between the suppression of inconvenient truths in science and politics. Scientists may discover uncomfortable realities, whether about climate, war, the humanitarian consequences of state actions, but they often do not directly name the governments or leaders responsible, either due to fear of backlash, censorship, or loss of credibility in a politically sensitive environment. Similarly, in the UN incident, a leader directly named Israel and accused it of acts that many ordinary people feel should be openly addressed. Instead of letting that voice be heard, the microphone was cut, and the situation mirrored how truth in scientific discourse is often hidden behind careful words and avoidance of direct blame. It reflects a systemic problem of silencing uncomfortable realities under the guise of neutrality or technicality. The broader implication is that we live in a world where transparency is constantly promised but rarely delivered. Institutions like the UN are supposed to be the guardians of dialogue, yet moments like these reveal how fragile free expression is when it confronts the interests of powerful states and their allies. People begin to lose faith in the system, because if even the world's highest platform cannot allow an uninterrupted speech, then how can ordinary citizens hope their grievances will be heard? The microphone becomes more than a tool for sound. It becomes a symbol of permission. Who is allowed to speak? Who decides how much they can say? Who controls when their words reach the world and when they are cut off? These questions arise in the mind of every listener, and the answers point to an uncomfortable reality. Those who control the system also control the narrative. At the same time, the event underscores how fragile the balance between free speech and political pressure has become. It suggests that the structures of power are willing to go as far as cutting a voice in real time to prevent a message from spreading too far. While the explanation may always be given as a technical issue, the timing of such interruptions leaves little room for coincidence in the eyes of the audience. If the leader had been praising Israel, would the mic have failed at that moment? If the speech had been neutral and uncontroversial, would the technical team have acted the same way? Such questions deepen the suspicion, and suspicion erodes trust. Without trust, the international system begins to crumble from within, because credibility is the foundation on which such institutions stand. The keynote also highlights the dangerous trend of controlling not only what is said, but also how it is perceived. Cutting a mic does not erase the words, but it shifts the attention from the substance of the speech to the act of silencing. It diverts focus from human rights and justice to procedural controversy. People start debating whether it was sabotage or accident, instead of engaging deeply with the accusations being made against Israel. This diversion benefits those who wish to avoid scrutiny, because now the conversation is no longer about the suffering in Gaza or the occupation of Palestinian territories, but about a malfunction in the UN hall. In this sense, silencing becomes a strategic tool. The moral weight of such moments cannot be ignored either. In conflicts like Israel-Palestine, where decades of pain, displacement, and violence have scarred generations, every platform of truth matters. For a Palestinian child in Gaza, watching a UN debate, seeing a world leader defend their right to justice can mean hope. But when that voice is silenced in front of the whole world, it sends another message, that even hope can be muted when it threatens the powerful. That realization is crushing, not just for the people directly affected, but for humanity as a whole. Because if the global system does not allow truth to be heard, then the very idea of international justice is compromised. Furthermore, the symbolism of silencing connects to a broader history. Voices have been muted throughout history whenever they challenge the status quo. Revolutionaries, reformers, truth-tellers, and whistleblowers have always faced attempts to shut them down. In this light, the cutting of the mic is not just about one leader or one speech. It becomes part of a pattern that repeats across time. The world has seen how censoring a single phrase can change the course of a debate, how muting a voice can delay justice for decades. Yet history also shows that silencing never kills the truth. It only postpones its arrival. The muted words echo louder because people sense there was something too important to be allowed in the open. This moment also reminds us that technology, which is supposed to empower communication, can be weaponized to restrict it. The microphone, the camera, the live broadcast, all of these are tools designed to amplify voices, but they can just as easily be turned off with the push of a button. It shows how fragile truth is in a world that depends so heavily on controlled systems. The illusion of openness collapses the moment someone decides that a certain message is too dangerous to let through. This fragility should shock us more than the speech itself, because it reveals how little it takes for the entire structure of free expression to crumble. Finally, the keynote emphasizes that we are at a critical juncture. The struggle is not just about Israel and Palestine or about one leader at the UN. It is about whether the world allows powerful nations to dictate the narrative while silencing smaller voices. It is about whether truth can still cut through systems of control. It is about the future of free speech, international justice, and accountability. The muted microphone was not just a technical failure. It was a metaphor for the global attempt to suppress uncomfortable truths. It leaves the world asking, if the highest stage of humanity cannot guarantee that a leader's voice will be heard in full, then where does truth have a chance to live? Thank you for giving me the chance to bring this powerful message to life. May your voice always remain strong. May your words always reach hearts. And may every effort you make find success. Good luck with your project. And remember, even when the world tries to mute you, your truth has the power to echo beyond boundaries.